Hi, my name is Leah Day, and this is a video for leahday.com. I am putting together a little skinny chakra wall hanging. Chakras are the energy centers of your body in yoga tradition, and there's different colors and different symbols that are associated with that. I took a look at my Expressions of Textures embroidery CD and selected designs that I thought would kind of fit with that, and have stitched them out into this little skinny wall hanging, and it looks good on the front and the back. So I've made up several of these for some friends, and I can't wait to show you how to make one too. So the first step is to hoop our fabric, and I'm working with black fabric. That's going to be the backing for my wall hanging, and I'm setting up my hoop where the fastener kind of hangs off the edge of the table, and also the tightening screw hangs off the edge of the table, so that way I can access it really easily. So I just kind of spread the fabric out over the hoop and press down, getting that inner hoop into the outer hoop. And I kind of tweak this just a little bit just to make sure it's nice and tight, and then tighten up the screw at the bottom. Of course, everybody hoops differently, so whatever you've learned or however you do it is probably just fine. This is what I've started doing because I'm usually hooping 3 layers for like a quilt block. Okay, so from here, I spread out my batting square. I'm just using a thin batting. I think this is Quilter's Dream Blend. And then I grab a square of fabric to go on top, just like that. Okay, so those are the layers, and that's how I've hooped my fabric. Let's move over to the machine and select our design. So I'm getting started and I'm winding a bobbin, and this is just a quick tip if you're using Isacord thread. This is my favorite type of thread for both free motion quilting and embroidery. But when you wind a bobbin with it, Isacord is kind of slippery, and it really helps if you just run it through your fingers as it's winding onto the bobbin, and that'll stop it from winding messy. I'm just very, very lightly running this through my finger. It just adds a little bit of extra tension, and it makes sure that bobbin is nice and tight and wound really well. There we go, ready to go. Okay, so I've pulled up the heart design that I want to stitch into this panel, and this is called Heart Paisley. But Heart Paisley is one of the few designs on my embroidery CD that was just a little small. It's 98 by 96 millimeters. That's a little small for this project. So I'm going to resize it. I'm just going into my editing area, and I can resize it. You can resize any of these up to 20% bigger or 20% smaller. So I'm going to resize it to 110, hit OK, and OK. And then now it's going to come in at 107 by 105. And that's generally the size that I'm wanting, which kind of corresponding to a little bit bigger than 4 inches. And that's what I want. When we go to bind, we want the binding to kind of cover up all of those edges, so we want it to be a little bit bigger than 4 inches. So one other tip, one thing that I like to do, if you have the option, don't have to, but if you have it, is a basting stitch. We've got 3 layers here, so it's really nice if you have this option to run a basting stitch all the way around, and that will secure all the layers together really nicely. So now I'll clip off that little thread tail, hit the X on my machine to get back out of the basting stitch, and hang onto my thread just lightly. I'm just lightly holding on to it. I don't want to pull on it where I would pull the needle over and potentially break a needle. And now I'm ready to get started, so I just hit start, and the machine will do the rest. So here's my finished block stitched out. And you can see we have a lot of waste fabric that you'll just end up cutting away. You want to trim this down to 4.5 inches square. And if you did your little base stitch, that's really going to help you put this together. Again, don't worry about it if your machine doesn't have that option, but it is very handy if you do. One kind of cool thing you could do, if your backing fabric is the same as your binding fabric, when you go to trim this, you could use this extra fabric, just starch it, press it, and stabilize it, and then you could use it as the binding fabric that's going to connect all of your squares together. So let me show you how to do this next. You're going to cut your binding first. You need 1 inch binding, 1 inch strip, by obviously a little bit wider than the block itself. So it's about, I cut these about 5.5 inches by 1 inch. And then the other strip is a 1.5 inch strip. And again, it's about 5.5 inches long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this so that the 1 inch strip is to the back and the folded binding is to the front. And I have the fold to the inside. And then just run that through my machine with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you get this nice effect. So it's nicely bound, nicely connected. Then you're going to take that back binding and flip it forward. Just kind of finger press it over, just like that. And then layer it so that the two blocks, the next block up, is wrong sides together. Align the top edges and stitch this through your machine with a 1/4 inch seam allowance again. When you connect those two together, you get something like this, where you've got both seam allowances of both blocks, and they kind of nest together in that 1 inch binding. It becomes just a 1/2 inch strip on the back side. Looks really good. Okay, then that folded binding, all you do is you just kind of have to bring it over and just finger press it, hold it in place, and then you can stitch this down to secure it. I did a straight stitch, and you can see what this looks like here. See, it's a really nice straight stitch, and I did straight stitch on one side, then I turned it around and did straight stitch on the other side. Kind of looks nicely finished that way. And if you use matching colored thread, you know, no one's going to be able to see your stitching at all. It's going to look great on the front and the back. After you get all of your blocks connected, trim up the long edges. They're probably not going to end up exactly straight together, so give them a little trim and then cut yourself some binding strips. I cut 2 inch wide binding strips, bound this using my just typical binding method for quilts, and it came out looking great. I added just a little hanging sleeve here at the top. It's ready to hang on a wall. So I really hope that you've enjoyed learning how to make your own chakra wall hanging, skinny wall hanging. If you'd like to find the embroidery designs that I used in my hanging, you can find them in the Expressions of Textures embroidery CD available at leaday.com. Until next time, let's go embroider.